Every business has its own unique story. Stories brewed in early mornings and late nights, built by the hands of business owners chasing a dream. Here on Business Over a Brew, we bring those stories to you. I'm Nick Darr, and in each episode, we sit down with a local business person to explore what drives them, what challenges them, and what keeps them pouring their passion into our community. Because every local business contributes more than just products or services. They're the heartbeat of our neighborhoods. They're run by people who care deeply about their community, and their stories remind us why supporting local matters. So pour yourself a drink, take a seat, and let's learn from some of the best in our backyard, right here on Business Over a Brew, presented by the Brew-Ben Growth Association. And welcome to another episode of Business Over a Brew. I'm your host, Nick Darr. Pleased to be joined in this episode by Ben Hollis from Duke Bakery. Ben, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
I'm going to just back that up for me just a little bit. There we go. You guys have been, we've had a lot of new businesses on the show, of course, but you guys have been around a long time. So
It's been a few years, 75 years this year.
Just tell us a little bit, thumbnail sketch of how you got involved with Duke Bakery.
So I was finishing up college, late 90s. I was engaged to Amy, which was her grandfather that started the bakery in 1951. Her dad and uncle ran it for many years. And about 2 months before we got married, a baker that had been there 47 years passed away unexpectedly. So I just kind of stepped in, didn't know what I was doing, and within a couple months, Amy and her dad came to me and asked me if I'd be willing to come on full time, and I did, and that's been 27 years ago.
So, as a lot of things in life, not necessarily a plan, but just kind of happened.
Definitely one of those things. I don't regret it at all. I mean, I think I truly found my passion. I just didn't know what my passion was at that time.
Sure, right.
So,
yeah. Talk about how Duke Bakery got started 75 years ago.
So, Macedonian immigrants came to this country, for a better life, and they originally bought the Jackson Bottling Company in 1943, which is located directly behind the bakery now.
Right.
We still own that building. It's our warehouse that we use for storage and so forth, but that was a soda plant. They ran Duke Beverage Company from 1943 to 1954. 1951, he bought the adjoining property, which is where the bakery is now. It was McFetridge Grocery Store at that time. And 54, he ended up pushing pause, we call it now. Back then, it was closing the soda plant. Coke and Pepsi were dominating the market, and bakery was taking off, so he just turned all of his energy and focused on the bakery. And years later, we ended up bringing back the soda.
Let's talk about that, because you guys have recently, I guess October, I think, kind of relaunched the soda brand, and talk about that endeavor and how that's been going.
Going back probably 2010, 12, something like that, I wanted to do it then, and it was on my radar to do, and you get sidetracked, and that project just kept getting pushed off. But for years, I'm walking through the basement, I'm walking through the warehouse building, looking at these old soda bottles, looking at soda crowns, the caps, crates, different things that still had Duke Beverage name on it.
Right.
And I thought, how cool would this be to see these back on the shelves? And so kind of as an introduction to our 75th year in business, our big anniversary this year was, the focus was turned to bring the soda back. Mainly just focused on selling it at the Alton store and the Granite City store, just to take place of the Coke and Pepsi that we did have in our coolers. But it took off.
And other than the fact that you had walked by these bottles and noticed them, what did you know about the soda business at that time?
Not a thing. Not a thing, but that's okay. The funnest part of this whole endeavor with the soda was going through some of the old paperwork and the boxes that we had in the basement that Amy and I didn't know what was in them.
Right.
We just knew it was old paperwork. We found every canceled check from 1943 to 1954 from the soda plant. We found all the trademark contracts that they had drawn up for the logos and everything and the names to trademark everything. All these rationing slips during World War II where they rationed sugar and they were rationed for gas. And it was just really cool just going through all of this information and kind of putting the puzzle pieces together, And so, yeah, it's just, we then went on a quest to find a bottler that would work with us on flavors and flavor profiling. And We ended up working closely with a company out of Cayuga Falls, Ohio, which is right outside Akron.
Sure. All right. So, I mean, it's very much an entrepreneurial. The whole thing's been an entrepreneurial endeavor for you, obviously. But this is maybe even a different level because it's a whole new product line that you've kind of taken on.
It is. It's been a fun process. I'm really into that whole like atomic era, the craft sodas, the old cars. I love that time period. So it's been a really good fit for me to kind of, I don't want to say break the monotony, but when you do something for 27 years, and it's the same thing every day, it's fun to take on a project like this and have a little renewed passion and be able to kind of fit it in with some of those other things that you're really interested in your personal life. And
I mean, that's really a fine line for business owners, I think, of finding a new endeavor that can it can really go a couple different ways. It can be a spark that gets you excited about the business again. Not that you're not excited about it, but it gets monotonous, no doubt. Or it could be a distraction. So how do you make sure?
And I think if you can make a hobby a job, it's not really a job, right? If you love what you do, they say if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Sure.
So I think in this case, that became almost a hobby that became a job. The soda did. And I'm good with that because it doesn't feel like I'm working when I'm talking about the soda or taking it someplace. I'm a big Route 66 buff. So this year's the centennial for Route 66. So we've actually worked out doing a commemorative logo and label on the soda. And that's going to be distributed to some of the tourist stops and visitor centers. To me, that's not work. That's fun.
What do you think it is about Duke Bakery that's allowed you to endure and survive and thrive for as long as you have?
Oh, man, good question. And I think there's so many answers to that. One answer is some years you got to be willing to take a pay cut. Mm-hmm. There's good years and there's bad years.
Right.
The other thing is just staying true to the community. I mean, we're in the same building we've been in for 75 years. We're in the same neighborhood. And let's face it, nobody would open up a business now in the middle of a residential neighborhood with no other commercial space around it. It's not prime location for a business. But I also don't think Duke Bakery would have survived if Duke Bakery would have been located anywhere else.
Right.
I think the community is why we're still here after 75 years.
I'm sure you have probably a large portion of your customer base have been coming there for 25,
Absolutely.
30, 40 years. Their parents came there.
Parents, grandparents, great-grandparents now. And, I think that's the real answer of why Duke Bakery has survived 75 years. It's not us, it's community.
And before we came on, you had talked about that you go and do talks to schools and organizations and around the community. And usually one of the main themes is adversity.
Sure.
And I think that's probably also one of the things is just how do you deal with it? How do you, being able to handle the ups and downs?
Absolutely. And business is not always sunshine and rainbows. There's a lot of negatives that go along with that. But it's how you handle it. It's your own mental mindset of whether or not you're going to choose to let that get you down. We've been through fires, we've been through floods, and we've been through pandemics. And those times seem challenging at the moment, but we came out stronger at the end of each one.
Right.
You try to find a positive in it. When we had the flood in Granite City back in 2019, I walked in that building that morning and had water up past my waist, and I thought, my gosh, how are we going to ever come out of this? And we put a post out on Facebook, and that post got, within the day, it was like 190,000 views, something like that. And we got a phone call from like Fox News.
Right.
We got a phone call from CNN, Associated Press. All this media. Within that week, we did like 10 interviews with large-scale media from worldwide.
Right.
Next thing I know, the Dairy Queen out front that's in our parking lot, they did not take on water. They came to me and they said, hey, why don't you set up a pop-up bakery in the dining room area? That way you can at least fill orders, things like that.
Right.
So we did that, which, what a neighbor. Like,
sure,
what a heck of a guy, And there we go again. More interviews. And we came out of that flood, and business went up about 100%.
That's amazing. And I think it's probably, if you could, put your finger on why that story really attracted so much attention. This probably is just the story of what you guys have done in the community for so long, and it is a unique business these days.
It is. It is. There's very few. At one time, the St. Louis area had over 400 independent, full-line retail bakeries.
Right, and now that number is
Less than 20.
right. So,
Less than 20.
and of the 20, the ones that are set up the way you are, like you said,
Right.
in the middle of a residential area.
Yeah, it's unheard of, and I mean, you oftentimes don't see the second generation or the third generation want to go on and take it over.
Sure.
The hours are rough, they're long, they're
Right.
early,
What time does your alarm go off in the morning?
What time does my alarm go off, or what time do I get up after I hit snooze for 45 minutes or an hour? Alarm clock usually goes off around 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock, all right, yeah.
But that's also my most productive hours of the day are from 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Once the lights come on at 6, more employees start coming in, customers start coming in. I have probably a little ADD. I have a hard time staying focused when I have a lot of distraction. So 1 to 6, I can get work done.
What's 1 to 6 look like? Are you the only one there?
No, there's usually between 3 or 4 of us there in that time of the morning.
Right, but fewer. Right.
Fewer. It's mainly donut production, and overlap that is bread or pastries, but donut production is primarily what's dominating that time period.
It's, I guess, too, it's probably a little bit second nature.
It is.
At this point.
Yeah. I don't have to think too hard about what I'm doing.
Right.
Usually, it's a good time for me to think about other things. When I'm doing donuts, that's usually, I think, when a lot of those great ideas really, come together.
Right. You guys have struck, I would say, an interesting balance between staying I'll call it a traditional, old school type business, but also open to growth opportunities like the Granite City location, like the soda. Talk about, I'm curious, when you have an idea or someone on the team has an idea, how does that process work for you guys?
Well, a business is constantly evolving and changing.
Sure.
And the businesses that don't evolve and change die.
Right.
So, that's the other thing with whether it's a fire or a flood or whatever. It forces you to reevaluate what you're doing and how you're doing it. And usually when things like that happen and you have to reevaluate, you usually come up with a better idea or a better way of maybe doing things that's more efficient. New ideas, we always joke around at the bakery, the management team, and say we talk things to death. We will have 5 meetings and say the same thing in 5 meetings, and a year later we may actually act on it.
Right.
So as much as it seems like we are constantly doing something, a lot of times by the time you see that we've done it,
Right.
it's been in the works for 2 years or longer.
But I think that's a good way to approach it too, to where you're not just because there's so many things you could do. Like you could start doing something totally different and not stay true to what the identity of the business is. So it is a good idea and it's great that you have a team to talk those things through with.
We got a great core staff. I mean, our managers have been with us 20 years plus, and I kind of feel like we all grew up together. We're all close to the same age. Maybe some are a little bit younger than me, but we're almost friends first.
Sure.
And coworkers second. But you've got to change. You got to evolve. But at the same time, we're very, very conscious, especially of the Alton location, to keep it as similar to what it has always been. Try not to make any major changes, especially in the way that it's perceived, viewed, the feel when you walk in the door, because that nostalgic feeling is so important to so many people. They grew up coming in there. They don't want to walk in and all of a sudden, see major changes.
Sure, right.
So we're very conscious of that.
I would think, and without divulging too any inside information, has the recipe changed in 75 years, or has it pretty much remained the same?
Recipes have pretty much maintained the same, have stayed the same. The only thing that has really changed is when government intervention takes place. And they change.
We all love that.
Yeah. So, it's probably been 7 or 8 years ago now, maybe a little longer. They had a trans fat ban, which changed shortenings big time.
Sure.
And we struggled. I mean, it was about 12 to 24 months that we were fighting with cookies. We were fighting with cakes and icings because
just trying to get the taste right without
Trying
having to have an ingredient change, I guess.
Absolutely. And if you go get some of the, I call them like snack cakes at a grocery store or a gas station, and you eat it and you get that waxy feel on your tongue and your mouth,
right?
That's because of the trans fat change. When they took trans fats out and you went to, shortenings that were manufactured differently, you get that slick mouth feel.
Right.
And we battled with that for a while, trying to find out, okay, what can we do? What combination of items, what types of shortenings can we use that yield a product as close to what we were originally using?
But I guess worth it because we're all perfectly healthy now.
Absolutely, yeah. Everybody's in great shape. No health concerns at all now, so...
With that, we'll take a break and come back and talk more with Ben Hollis from Duke Bakery after this on Business Over a Brew.
Nick Dar here with Big Z Media. Hope you enjoy the episodes of Business Over a Brew, and pleased to have the Riverbend Growth Association as the sponsor of this program. Our missions are kind of the same, really. We're attempting to educate people about business, foster business in the Riverbend community. The Big Z has been a member of the Growth Association forever, probably back to our inception. As a company almost, we have always been members of the Growth Association, have gotten a lot of benefits from it. There's so many networking opportunities you can take advantage of. I've met so many great people just because I've been a member of the Growth Association and taken advantage of all the events that they have, plus just some of the resources they provide you, the relationships you build. Just lots of great reasons to join the Growth Association. They do a lot of great things in the community as well. They highlight a different nonprofit every month. So really, they're just invested in the community here, and especially the small business community, which is what Business Over a Brew is really all about, which is helping the small business community, because it's so important to any community to have a thriving business community. And the Growth Association has really helped with that. If you want more information about joining or events that might be coming up, they have events all the time that you should definitely take advantage of. I'm going to give you the website to go to. Just head to growthassociation.com. You can get a membership directory. You can see who's taking advantage of it. You can see about the events that are there, learn more about possibly becoming a member. Or if you already are a member, you can find out what's going on with the Growth Association at growthassociation.com. So just again, big thank you to the Riverbend Growth Association for sponsoring Business Over a Brew.
And welcome back to Business Over a Brew, visiting with Ben Hollis from Duke Bakery. And Ben, you guys are celebrating 75 years. It's kind of the first aspect of that launch was the soda. But I know you got some other events and other cool things coming up too.
Yeah, the next thing we've announced, we're doing a food trailer, and we're in hopes that'll be done in May. So you'll start seeing Duke Bakery on the go, out on the road at different, whether it's a farmer's market or different sort of events throughout the community and surrounding communities. That'll also be available for wedding receptions, baby, showers, birthdays. We can take it to your house, set it up, that sort of thing. So we're excited about that, kind of pumped. And then we've got some celebrations taking place this year. We're doing a collaboration with Great Rivers and Routes April 30th in Granite City at the Neon Park. And that'll be the celebration for the 100th anniversary of Route 66, the 250th of the country, and the 20th anniversary or 20th birthday of Duke Bakery, Granite City.
You guys are really, it seems like, doing a great job of collaborating and bringing other people in that are, either you're helping them or they're helping you. And I mean, that's that spirit of collaboration.
Well, we all will get further if we work together.
Sure.
So we really try to work with other groups in the community, and it feels good to work with somebody else. You kind of thrive off each other, kind of pumps everybody up.
Right.
So we got a meeting, I think, next week with Great Rivers and Routes about Alton celebration, which will be like the 250th of the country, and I think Miles Davis' birthday and Duke Bakery's 75th.
It's just nice to know too that there's a team of people that care about your success, and that there is something just about working together to accomplish a goal that you don't always get from being a solo. Not solo, but owning your own business.
Well, absolutely. And, the ideas. And like working with Corey and Grace and Lindsay up at Great Rivers and Routes, it's like just hearing other people's ideas and seeing their excitement, their excitement about the area and the region. I mean, to me, that gives us energy, gives us some momentum to move forward on.
We can maybe just kind of hover over that for a minute, just because I've said that one of the, I think, biggest challenges that our area and our region faces is just kind of like this inferiority complex of not maybe there's some negativity and just not realizing, because we're in it every day, what an amazing area we have.
I say that all the time. When you grow up in a town or a neighborhood, you tend to gloss over what's special about it. And, I grew up in Granite City, so I spent the first 19 years of my life in Granite City before I came up to Alton. I still am in awe when I drive across the Clark Bridge from the Missouri side coming towards Illinois and seeing the bluffs.
Right.
But I often wonder, you grew up here.
I did.
Do you have that feeling of awe like I do, since I didn't grow up?
I still do. I mean, not every day, but and that's my drive home every day is up the river road, and it's like a great 15 minutes for me to be able to drive that and just kind of, get a little perspective about, this is a pretty cool place that we're fortunate enough to live in.
Well, we have a lot of young people that work for us, high school, college, and I'll talk to them sometimes about whether it's history or something, and they'll be like, the Lincoln Douglas debates, what's that? Or, Elijah P. Lovejoy, I think I remember hearing about him in school.
Right.
But it's if they really, so many people gloss over the history that Alton has.
Sure, yeah.
And I mean, there's so much here in this town.
There is, and we do have a lot of people in the community that care about making it better.
Sure.
And, especially that care about helping small businesses. And, and I think those of us in the small business community certainly, we have a good recognition of how important it is to, that without small businesses, our community is in serious trouble.
Absolutely. It's the foundation of the community and the neighborhoods, I mean, it's... I don't want to sound negative when it comes to big box stores necessarily, because you got to have them too, Right. But, it's you and I and your other, small business owners in the community that are involved. We're the ones that are out there, helping each other out.
I mean, you think about, not that big box stores don't, but the charitable donations. Most people work for a small business as well. So, and you talked about your team and how, and we're both kind of in the same boat of amazing to have employees that have been with us 20 plus, 30 plus years. Yeah. Talk a little bit about your team and how instrumental they are.
Oh, I mean, you can't do it without them. I mean, I'm only one man, and I come and do stuff like this. Well, somebody's got to be back there keeping the ship afloat. So, two of my managers, one's been around 21 years. She started as basically a kid in high school, and the other one has been around like 20 years. It's Lisa and Kelly. I mean, we couldn't do it without them. We got our baker, head baker, Brandy. She's been with me about 8 years now, and I mean, she puts out a ton of product and knows what she's doing and can do it without me being there next to her, and that's huge.
And you said something before we came on that really kind of surprised me. You have 70-ish employees between the locations.
We have right at 70 employees between the Alton and the Granite City location. So,
I mean, there's just a great example of the importance of your business, and you probably don't think about it this way every day, but how important it is to those 70 people that are, dependent upon you in a lot of ways. So. Yeah,
and I mean, it I don't want to say it's pressure, but you do think about it when you make decisions, and years ago we used to close 2 weeks every year. Now this goes back 25 years ago and before, they'd close for vacation, July the 4th, and you'd shut down for 2 weeks.
Right.
Well, we don't do that anymore. And the primary reason we don't do that anymore is we have 70 employees. When you have 70 employees and everybody needs a paycheck and they got bills to pay at home, you can't just shut down for 2 weeks and say, hey, bud, give me a fist bump. I'll see you in 2 weeks when we get back to work. It just doesn't work like that anymore. And we've got enough staff now that we can rotate out and everybody can get vacations and it doesn't really impact anything.
Right.
So yeah, it's, but I mean, we're so blessed with such a good crew of people, and even the young employees, they're a breath of fresh air 90% of the time, maybe even more.
Right, yeah.
But they do a good job. They really do a good job. And I've got friends that are in business, and they really spend a lot of time, I'm going to say, dogging on the younger generation. It's hard to get them to do this. It's hard to, I don't know. They want to feel included. They want to feel educated. If you just talk to them, if you talk to them and interact with them, they're really a breath of fresh air.
In a lot of ways, and I mean, I'd always I hate the stereotype of or just putting a generation in one category.
Agreed.
I'm not sure it's the generation either. I mean, if I look at myself, when I was 18, 19, 20, or 21, you probably wouldn't have wanted me as an employee either.
Sure. Sure, and I think that's a lot of us.
You know, you change, you evolve, you mature.
Yeah.
And I really try to avoid the sitting around and saying this generation today.
Me too.
You know, because first of all, as the owner, the leader of the organization, it's on you to figure out how to get the most out of them. Like,
absolutely.
And if they're not an individual that, you know, fits in with your team, then it's your job to have them move on too. So I do always try to shy away from that conversation.
Yeah,
of
I
the younger
do too.
Generation because I didn't like it when people were talking about me like that.
And I feel like it's that phrase is used so much anymore.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really try the same. I try not to use that phrase. I try not to say it because I just don't feel it's true. I feel like if you give those kids some attention, you work with them. I mean, you're going to have some of your best employees out there, and they're smart.
Right.
I don't know the first thing. Your laptop computer over there, I don't know the first thing about it.
Yeah.
And when I have a problem, first thing I do is go and grab one of those 16, 17, 18-year-old kids and say, hey, can you help me out? And they can figure it out.
We almost had to call one before the show started. I want to talk, if we could, just for a couple minutes, because he probably doesn't even realize this, but Mike Duclough had actually a big impact on my working career, my working life, because he was one of the first clients that I had selling advertising here at the radio station when I was a young man, and he was just so good to me, and I know he had a big impact on you as well.
Yeah,
Just talk
absolutely.
a little bit about his mentorship, and you know, he's obviously instrumental to the success of Duke Bakery.
Talk to him every day still. You know, he's not in there every day like he used to be, but every day we talk. Mike was a huge part of my life. Man. Just, yeah, you know, I mean, he probably taught me the work ethic that I have today. Incredible businessman, incredible communicator.
Yeah.
You know, that was probably Mike's strongest point. He could talk to anyone and find a common denominator, a common topic, and could relate. He's that guy that could go into any neighborhood in the country and they would find out something they have in common. Mm-hmm. They would know a common person. You know, he would find that, and I think that's a huge talent to have, and I hope that he passed some of that on to me. I think he did. And I don't know. We were reminiscing a little bit before the show. I think he was pretty much the driving force. He brought John O'Leary to town. It was a great motivational speaker. Yeah. There's now a movie about him, and I think Mike kind of just did all that on his own. He did all of that on his own, and I'm trying to remember the year. In fact, Mike and I were talking about this not that long ago. It was early 2000s, maybe 2002, 3, 4, something like that.
I would say it was after 2003, just because I started here in ad sales in 2003, and I'm pretty sure it was after that. I was there, so I don't think I would have been had I not been in that role.
It was a program that he put together. It was called like Celebration of Business, I think is what we called it. And it was for businesses that had been in operation for 50 years or more.
Right.
And we had several hundred people up there at the old Spirits in the upstairs of the Masonic Temple. And we had 2 guest speakers that night. I'll see if you remember the second one. John O'Leary was the first.
I don't remember the second. I know Mike spoke.
Mike spoke, but Vince Bomarito.
Okay.
Vince Bomarito was the owner of Tony's Restaurant downtown St. Louis.
I do remember that.
And he was the other speaker. But John O'Leary.
Sorry, John stole the show.
John stole the show. That was early in John's career, too. I don't think he'd been doing it for a real long time at that point, as far as his public speaking. But, you know, it wasn't long after that he came out with his first book. It was either him or his parents. He did a book. His parents also did a book. And now the movie, Soul on Fire, right?
Yeah, right. I think we had him in studio to promote that event. And then last time, I think we might have had him, not too long ago, we had him on the radio via, you know, he didn't have time to come in the studio, but he was nice enough to visit with us over the phone.
He's a great guy. His story is a huge inspiration.
It is.
It was a huge inspiration on us, and we've maintained that friendship. I know Amy ran into him at the airport. I think it was last year or a couple of years ago, and they chatted over at the airport for a while, and they communicate a little bit through social media and stuff.
And it's just I remember Mike so fondly for that memory really sticks out. It's just he didn't really, there was nothing for him to gain from it necessarily. He just did it as a service to the community, which is kind of what Duke's been all about.
And it's, it was nice because I think it just made everybody feel like their 50 years of business, their hard work, their family's hard work was being recognized.
Sure.
It was being recognized by someone outside of their immediate organization, that people notice.
So obviously lots of important people throughout the history of a 75-year business.
Absolutely.
But we're running a little short on time. Anything specifically that you want to touch on before we wrap it up?
I would say just keep an eye on our social media pages, our Facebook. We've got a lot of events coming up this year. This is the year of nostalgia for us. This is a year for us to look back at our roots and kind of... just really enjoy the year with the community, with the people that are the reason why we're still here.
Right. Any piece of advice that you would offer to maybe young or struggling entrepreneurs?
You got to be resilient. Never get too down.
Yeah.
When something bad happens, know that tomorrow's a new day and that you can bounce back. Make every negative a positive.
Great advice. If people want to find out more, other than social media pages, obviously stop by, grab a donut.
Yeah, stop by Duke Bakery. What is it? Duke Bakery. DukeBakeryInc.com.
Okay.
Yeah, DukeBakeryInc.com, and then the social media pages. That's a great place to follow us.
Well, Ben, thanks so much for coming on. Congratulations on all the success.
Thank you.
And really excited for you guys and what the future holds.
Awesome. Appreciate it very much.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching this episode of Business Over Brew. If you'd like to support local business, first and foremost, shop local whenever you can. Secondly, liking, sharing, and subscribing to the show in whatever form you consume it would mean the world to us. To watch more episodes, visit businessoverbrewpodcast.com.